Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We've seen the response by the Prime Minister to the letter that the President wrote earlier, in which he said that as far as the President is concerned, it seems to be one-sided. It seems to be his allegiance to a political party that speaks, the letter speaks of, and does not really conform to his office of President and the fact that it must be above any such political affiliations. We'll be talking about the response of the letter that the Prime Minister wrote today and its ramifications. We'll also be talking about, of course, as far as the PTI Jalsa is concerned, the reports of the Jalsa itself and the amount of people that the former Prime Minister managed to get out when the claim was, of course, that there would be thousands and thousands of people in the Jalsa. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the roadmap the former Prime Minister talked about and how much of it was really worked upon, followed through in the last tenure of the government. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Ahmed Sheikh, who is an M&A with PML-N. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Rashid from the PPP. Thank you for joining us. And Senator Dr. Zarqa, who is with the PTI. Thank you for joining us today. We saw what happened as far as the letter of the Prime Minister, the response to the letter by the President that the Prime Minister wrote today. How do you look at this, considering, of course, that the Prime Minister very vocally expressed his views on the way that the letter by the President of Pakistan was written and the way that it should have been above political affiliations, above party politics?
Hello. Hello.
Ji, I can hear you. Kaisa Saab, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear
you. Ali, can you?
Mahrukh, the letter written by. Is it possible? I can.
You're audible. I can hear you.
Yes.
Kaisa Saab, I was saying that the letter, that the response, the response to the letter by the President that we've seen clearly states that, the views should be above party lines, the views should be, rather the office of the President is supposed to be above party allegiances, party affiliations. How do you look at this overall in terms of, the way that the office of the President of Pakistan has acted till now after the vote of no confidence?
Mahrukh, the office of the President is a prestigious office and the highest position in Pakistan for this office. The letter written by the President is mentioned by the Prime Minister, and today very clearly elaborated by Prime Minister that this is not the letter which should be in the position of the President. It should this letter is not according to the Constitution, because the Prime Minister categorically mentioned that when National Assembly was cancelled, it was decided that it is no more we are in the National Assembly, and that was the immediately acceptance of President. At that time, when there was a movement of no confidence and the National Assembly, that was overall proper word I should say, but the President immediately agreed to that. That was
let me, when the Prime Minister says that in very limited instances the President acts on his discretion under the Constitution, he also states that's Article 46 and Rule 15(5)(b), but then also states that these provisions are, for that matter, nothing else in the Constitution requires the Prime Minister to consult the President on the exercise of executive authority by the federal government. So he's also very categorically said that this is the ambit of the President's power power, this is the ambit of his discretion, and that the office of the President of Pakistan is to act under, within that ambit, clarifying clearly that it shouldn't be out of that ambit, that the President's power can be exercised. So that's, do you think that it's also, clearly laying down that what is the power of the Prime Minister, or and the Parliament, and the power of the government and the federal government lies, and there will be no interference that will be allowed within that ambit?
Yes, that is very clear. The Constitution clearly mentions that this whole power rests with the National Assembly, and the Prime Minister has to recommend it to the President, and the President has to agree on that. There's no option to President that whenever Prime Minister sends a summary or to some recommendation to the President, the office of the President has to agree on that. And there might be once they can send back to the National Assembly, but if it is again agreed, it is approved by the National Assembly, the resolution is there, then the President has no other option in Constitution than to reject that summary or that instruction by the Prime Minister. So this is very clear, and the Prime Minister can mention that he tried his best to have an amicable relation between the two offices of the Prime Minister and the President. And we witnessed it about it. That always the Prime Minister gives dignity and importance to the office of the President.
Okay, so let me come back to you. On that note, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Ali Rashid. Ali, do you think that this is perhaps, since the vote of no confidence, we've seen, there has been some confusion, or what can one say, as far as the President's take on things, and whether they are influenced by his, being from a certain political party, his association, his allegiance to a political party. Does this letter not, enunciate that very clearly?
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. It does, and I think from day one, when the situation went down in Parliament, and the President went ahead and tried dissolving the assemblies unconstitutionally. But that being said, it comes with no surprise that the President is acting this way. He's the office of the President is supposed to be political. He's not supposed to be siding with any political party. But clearly here he's writing a letter to the Prime Minister, being a spokesperson of the PTI. And if you look at the letter, the Prime Minister rightfully said it seems like a press release of PTI. It's not even, you can be a bit impartial. I understand you can do a bit of angling. You want to be a bit supportive of a party, so you are a bit supportive. But here, he was clearly, bluntly taking sides. But again, if you look at the not too distant past, he's supposed to be the supreme leader of the armed forces. And what was he doing? He was trying to keep backdoor, negotiations at his house with the Chief of Army Staff and the establishment and Mr. Khan. And he actually went and took the message of Mr. Khan to the Chief of Army Staff, the new one, to have a meeting, which the current Chief of Army Staff refused to do so. So I'm saying it is absolutely out of the ambit of his role, this letter. But that being said, I'm not surprised with seeing his past behavior, because he's been acting like the spokesperson of PTI, and he's just taking instructions from Mr. Khan.
Let me go to Senator Dr. Zarqa, and I'll come back to you. Senator Zarqa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Dr. Zarqa, there is overall, do you think that this kind of, certainly the way that the letter was written, the response, all of that, would you agree that the office of the President of Pakistan has to be, apolitical in nature?
Thank you so much, Mahrukh. It's very interesting. I mean, the President has written a letter. It is a document. He can be taken to court on it. He can be impeached on it. If there is so much, why are they always doing media trials? This is a government. And they were desperate to get this government. Their desperation and their fascism has been clear from day one. I mean, just look at what they did to the Jalsa yesterday. The way they've been hounding Imran Khan, who has, because of their hounding, by the way, he has become the leader. He's got even more popular than he was before. I mean, they have lost their balance. They have a government. Their Auditor General has just resigned. People are not willing to go.
Dr. Zarqa, was it apolitical, the letter that it was written?
I think it was an absolutely fair letter. If there is a problem, they should look. We don't agree with what the Election Commission has done, because the Election Commission, in the presence of this very fascist and weak government, the Election Commission is a tool of the government. They are paid to do what they are paid by the taxpayers.
But the letter certainly did warrant a response, right? It was written to the Prime Minister, so it had to be replied back to. In fact, it was imperative that the President of Pakistan, the Office of President of Pakistan, if it chooses to write a letter to the Prime Minister, then of course it would warrant a response, right?
Good. The Prime Minister is already known globally as a spineless man. The kind of behavior he has shown with all the world leaders, he holds them by their elbows and he tries to ask them for money, and then he can't even make sense. I don't know what language he speaks with the Arabs. He's going in.
Mr. Imran Khan, when he was the Prime Minister, wasn't asking people for money for Pakistan?
Laughing stock. Sorry?
Your leader, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab, when he was the Prime Minister, was not asking international donors, was not asking other countries for money when Pakistan was in a precarious situation, or wouldn't do so, in your opinion?
Of course he did, but people have a personality, they have a history, they have a character. The world knows you. Public figures don't come out of.
They're also mandated by the office, and the responsibility that office holds to safeguard and to make sure that funds are available for the country. Of course, let me come back to you on that note. Ji, Kaisi Saab, you heard what Dr. Zarqa said. She's saying that the office, the way that the letter was replied to, it was needless. Those needless or not, the point is that when the office of the Prime Minister is written to by the President, it has to be replied to. Overall, the party allegiance in this regard, the way that we have the situation at this time, where the President at this time is clearly from a political party which is not exactly on great terms with the government at this time, puts the situation is rather precarious. But then, of course, on the other hand, the dignity of the office of the President and the way that it is to be conducted, it is to be on all accounts made sure that acted upon, those things are paramount and they should also be followed. But regardless, let's move on to the Jalsa of yesterday. What is your overall perception of the 10 points, the roadmap, so to speak, that the former Prime Minister gave out? Was it followed when he himself was leading the country not very long ago?
Yes, as far as the letter from the President is concerned, you have rightly said. I know the President. He's having a very prestigious position, and he is an honourable and a person as far as I know him. So this letter, I think someone from the PTI has forced him to write this type of letter. That it is not his concern. The office of the President is nothing to do with this. This is a constitutional matter, and if he has written to Prime Minister, normally Prime Minister sends an advice, and the Prime Minister has to act upon that advice. But this has been in the reverse here. The President wrote a letter that to act upon according to him, the Constitution, and to conduct elections. Now, as far as the Jalsa is concerned, yesterday was the Jalsa. So you see that in Pakistan, the things are now with the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And from the beginning, PML-N and the other parties have been advocating that the full court hearing should be there. But this is a very important matter of conducting elections, because all other institutions like Election Commission, like the institutions who have like finance department, they feel that this is not the proper time to conduct elections, and neither the election commission is in a position to do elections on time, because already the time has been over. The date of 30th April is already more than 90 days. And on the other hand, the situation, economic situation, is precarious, as you mentioned yourself. You see, I know that present our economy is not in a position to elections could be held. You see, Supreme Court has mentioned, but the election commission felt that this is not the proper time. Had this election conducted to this time, I feel it will be like the elections held in 1970 or 1977, when the elections were there, but there has not been implementation of the elections. You see, the economic position which we are facing nowadays, this has been really two policy of the PTI. For example, I have recently mentioned that $3 billion of turf was given as a loan to some wealthy party who had a very high wealth people. Maybe some 200 people were given loans on a concessional basis, that turf loan, and that community which has been reported, I know because very close.
Right. Ji, Ali, you heard what Kaisi Saab is saying, but as far as the issue of elections is concerned, certainly I don't want to go too much into it, because now it's with the Supreme Court. The PTI has gone in contempt, and it's for the Supreme Court to adjudicate on the matter, and conclusively so. But as far as this roadmap that the former Prime Minister gave out, how much of it is different from the original roadmap, in your opinion, that the PTI came forward, before they came into power? They had given out what they had, their manifesto, what they had planned to do, and their achievables in the 4 years that they were in government. Those things are how they can go back and talk about all those things again.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that the fact that the former PM actually came forward with the roadmap, I think it's positive. I think anybody who comes forward and comes with a roadmap to how to make Pakistan better is always welcome. So I think it's a good thing. I will not say anything bad about it. It's a good thing that he had some ideas which he shared. But in my opinion, they were very generic.
Okay.
That we need to increase our exports, that we need to give a special treatment to exporters, etc., etc. They're very generic things. It wasn't a very precise plan of action that this needs to be done and this is how the economy will be back on track. And that being said, out of all the points in the 4 years, how many of these things did he implement himself? None. If had he done so, the economy would not be in such bad shape. Right now, whatever issues we are facing economically are because of Mr. Imran Khan. The IMF deal, which is not going through, is because of the distrust he has created right before giving the subsidy on fuel, when he had promised the IMF that Pakistan won't do that. And for IMF, they don't care which government it is. They look at the state and they look at Pakistan. For them, we went backtrack on something which we had committed, and he did this purposely. So that's what really hurts me, that somebody is trying to damage the country. Politics aside, I think just for political gain. And then you heard what their a former finance minister was saying, that why should we care? We should write a letter to the IMF that we cannot fulfill these things. So there's so many things. So whatever he's saying, the optics are good. That he's saying, I have a roadmap and I want to do this. And I'll say, okay, Jalsa was also nice. People came out comparatively, but that's it, right? But which party does not do big jalsas in this day and age? I mean, if I talk about Karachi, the city where I'm from, the biggest jalsas today are done in Karachi by Jamaat-e-Islami and JUIF, but they don't have a single seat in the provincial assembly or the national assembly. So turning jalsas into electoral successes is a different story, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Ali, on that note, let me go to Senator Dr. Zarqa. Dr. Zarqa, do you agree that as far as politics generally is concerned, party politics, there are issues in this country and all countries also which are above politics? Do you agree, and your party? Just, my first question is, first and foremost, are there things above party politics? Are there things above political allegiances? Are there things above whatever party you may support, as far as the sanctity of the country, the loyalty, patriotism, all of those things are concerned? You agree on that, right? The PTI agrees on that.
Of course, Mahrukh, but that's a question you need to ask the people who are currently in government. I mean, it's so interesting to note that your entire program is about a prime minister who's no longer in office. You have a government. You have a representative. Why don't they have nothing on their plan to talk about? They are obsessed with a prime minister whom they are hounding day in and day out. 3 assassination attempts on him. You are in government. Why don't you do something? It's your time to deliver. Instead of fooling the people, instead of, look at what the international media is saying. They are now embarrassed all over in front of the Human Rights Commission, in front of the United States.
Dr. Zarqa, isn't it true that this same international media termed the former Prime Minister a predator of press when he was in government, when he was at the helm of affairs? Isn't that true?
Sorry, I didn't catch up.
I said the Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan Sahab, was termed as a predator of press by the same international media that the PTI is so fond of quoting today. Was it true then also?
Was that the word you used?
Predator of press, yes. The term that international media used for the former Prime Minister. It's on record.
It's okay. The international media uses many terms. I mean, that's what the media is all about. You talk about issues, you debate them. But my question to you is, you have a sitting government now. Why is the sitting government unable to do anything on any front except just taking away their cases and except making NAB toothless?
But Dr. Zarqa, I think I'll go to, Kaisar Ahmed Sheikh Sahab is here from the PML-N, Ali Rashid is also here, but overall, as far as the government is concerned, of course, their narrative is very clear. They're saying they want to go and do things as far as the economy is concerned. They want to go do things as far as the IMF is concerned, but, the situation that the country was left in, they're trying to restore things, and the former Prime Minister overall, as far as economy is concerned, you saw the PML-N spokesperson today. Clearly, the state of affairs was so dismal that it is taking so long for us to restore any confidence with the IMF at this time. In that kind of a situation, what does the government do? And you mentioned the obsession with the former Prime Minister. The point is, he's still, since the vote of no confidence happened, if we look back, dissolution of assemblies, asking his people to walk out, there has the ruckus, the kind of, the effort being made to make sure that there is, at all times, some sort of calamity in this country is right before us all. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Well, the biggest calamity is this current government that has taken the common man to the point of disaster. Look at the prices in Ramadan. Look at oil. Look at the dollar. Mr. Ismail and Ishaq Dar have made money off the people of Pakistan. They are unable to give the basic amenities of life. They have taken away the health card. They have taken away the panagas. They have taken everything away from the...
Dr. Zarqa, of course, rhetoric aside, but when we say that you accuse people like the current finance minister, the former finance minister, Miftah Ismail or Ishaq Dar Sahab, and say that they're making money, those are unsubstantiated statements that really have no proof. And again, that road of acrimony, that road of the kind of politics that we are seeing, name calling, abusive across the board, is the result of that kind of politics of allegations. Isn't that something the PTI needs to ponder? I will come back to you on that. I'll let you answer. Let me go to Kaisar Sahab. Kaisar Sahab, can you hear me? Ji, Kaisar Sahab?
Yes, I hear you.
Kaisi sir, you heard what Dr. Zarqa, I hope you heard what Dr. Zarqa is saying. She's talking about allegations, the politics of allegations again. You know, the politics of 90s at one time where we saw, the whole political discourse become clouded with this kind of rhetoric, blame game, what you may call it, calling each other names, the abuse. Unfortunately, even, today, if you look at Twitter, there are politicians who are resorting to language that is reprehensible, that is condemnable, that perhaps is not doing anything for the political democratic nature that there should of the kind of politics we want to have in this country. So how do you take a step back from that? How do you change things for the better, or is it going to slide into things getting worse in your opinion?
Mahrukh is not worthy to have allegations on finance minister. I also object on the policies of the finance minister, but I think it is not fair to give allegations of this corruption of anything like that without any proof to anybody. So that I think a person like Dr. Zarqa should not have mentioned things like this. But I tell you that the governments, the PTI government and even our government has not been successful to resolve the matter of the public. You see, I mentioned earlier that PTI government, we had a scarcity of foreign state and we were facing current account and fiscal deficit. Both deficits are very much there in PTI government. They gave $3 billion to loans to the wealthy people for those machinery which was not required, and that machinery is not in use today. They said that will increase exports, but that machinery is now not in use, and that was not loan has not been given to you. So the policy, and then when they started, and they mentioned that there will be no subsidy to trial prices, they did not fulfill their target, their commitment. Even now, I tell you, because our economy is on business, even now, what I recommend that they have a consensus, that charter of economy should get together, all parties of the Pakistan should have some.
And yes, I think there's a problem with audio. Let me go to Ali. Ali, regardless of what the roadmap may be for this government, regardless of what the roadmap was for the last government, overall things are not easy at this time. This is a coalition of more than 10 parties at this time, as far as the current government is concerned, and whichever government comes into power will have to deal with the issues of economy, will have to deal with the issues of inflation, price hike, security. Those are the issues that are there, and they will not diminish or they will not go away whoever comes into power, unfortunately. Do you think this roadmap will be sufficient if the former Prime Minister couldn't do anything in the last 4 years? Anyone who comes in can come up with this, like you said, according to you, the generic roadmap that was given, and it's going to make things better?
I don't think this roadmap will be enough for the next government. But yeah, I want to point out something. You see, the thing is, this my friend from PTI, Dr. Zarqa, I think her name was, she's talking about that this government, current government, should focus on working. And not talk about the ex-prime minister. But if you let us not talk about the ex-prime minister, we'll stop talking about the ex-prime minister. Your ex-prime minister is out on the road every single day. He is throwing petrol bombs. He's not letting us work. We got off the FATF's grey list while after this government came. And the stock market and all the other businesses could not capitalize on that point just because of the political uncertainty caused by Mr. Imran Khan. Because every day he's threatening people, he's on the roads, he's creating, the chaos. No investor feels comfortable, people are hoarding dollars because they're not sure what will happen. If you let us work peacefully, if you let this government function, I mean, look at it. This is just the ego of one man. elections are due in October. The term of this current National Assembly ends in August. Now, how many months are left? Just because you want to prove a point that I was able to call early elections, even if it was a month earlier, just so your people.
Maybe Dr. Zarqa has a point, to give them their due. Maybe, he should be largely relevant to your politics, your vision of how you want, the government's vision of how they want to steer things, how they want to go forward. Whatever, he may be trying to do. That's one way of looking at it, right? The former Prime Minister should maybe become irrelevant to any of that.
No, he is irrelevant, and I think he's just that's my exact point. He is irrelevant, but he's creating all these issues to stay relevant. He's not doing politics for any good reason. He's just making sure that he's in the limelight, and every day we're just discussing some issue or the other. Sometimes his workers, and it won't be victimization from the state or from the government which is happening with his workers. It'll be the other way around. I've never seen it before. His workers are attacking policemen. His workers are setting police mobiles on fire. His workers are throwing petrol bombs. I mean, if anything, the government is being victimized by these militant factors or militant elements in his political party. And not once did he come out and condemn it. Whatever happened, happened. I'm not saying that, Khan Saab might have directed his workers to do it, but it did happen. Whatever happened, people got injured, policemen were injured. Did he once come out and just condemn it? Look, whatever happened was very unfortunate, and I'm very displeased with how things went down. Nothing.
I'll go to Senator Dr. Zarqa ji. Dr. Zarqa, you agree with what's happening as far as Ali Rashid Saab is saying? He's saying that because of the way the ruckus that is created, because of the law and order situation, every time that the former Prime Minister is asked to appear in court, the destruction of vehicles, the destruction to property, the violence that it perpetuates is the reason why, invariably it becomes relevant.
Thank you. Can you explain why there are more than 147 cases registered on ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan? And they are all cases which have no basis. I mean, and they have not been able to find anything in corruption except that Tosha Khana, and then they have all the papers of all the other ex-premiers, generals, judges who have taken gifts, and there is no explanation. So, and then the custodial torture that is going on. Please, Mahrukh, you will have to let me speak, because otherwise there's no point of asking me on the program. If you keep interrupting me,
please continue. I always allow my guests to speak. Please continue.
If this is not something you want to hear, then you interrupt me and you put off my mic. There's no point in inviting someone on the show if you don't have, if your channel does not allow you to let someone speak what they have to say. No point in calling people like us.
Dr. Zarqa, obviously we invite you because our channel allows us to do so. Please continue.
Your channel also has to allow me to. This is the issue with this government. There is so much fascism.
Dr. Zarqa.
I can't even speak. Look at that. I, a sitting senator, am not allowed to speak on the national television. And why is that? Why can't you hear? This is supposed to be a democracy. And a democracy.
If you look back, I have given you time, then I go to the other guests. If you look back at this, you'll see, it's that there is no.
Can Mr. Ali explain the custodial torture that is going on? How was Zille Shah killed? Who killed Zille Shah? Where is Azhar Mashwani right now? What is going on in this country? And because the current regime is being run through through UK, and they have their London plan, and they are doing what serves them, and they are serving the interests of the enemies of Pakistan. We are quite happy if they were able to deliver. Why have they not been able to deliver? They came with the mandate that they know all the games. They know how to deal with IMF. They have gone into 22 programs before us. Then why is Mr. Ishaq Dar such a failure?
Won't you allow the people to judge that? I mean, whether they deliver, whether they don't deliver. Of course, the people will determine eventually, whenever the elections happen, They will be the best judge of what and which government delivered and which didn't. And the last tenure of the PTI, the 4 years that the former Prime Minister and your party was in power, and what actually happened, whether there was any delivery there also.
The people are out on the roads because their mandate has been taken from them. Nawaz Sharif was also taken out of government. Did anybody come out on the street? No. Why are the people out on the road? Because they believe that their mandate has been taken. Nobody
can. Zarqa, as far as Punjab and KP is concerned, you agree that the assemblies were dissolved pursuant to instructions of the former Prime Minister. That is a fact also.
Yeah, because you have got look at the current parliament, the National Assembly is running with no opposition. The opposition are the 20 people.
But why do you now want to go back? Why do you now want to go back into that same National Assembly?
Because you have to, the kind of government that is being run right now, they have no mandate. They are going against the constitution. Look at what the Election Commission is doing. Look at how they are doing torture on people on no basis.
The Election Commission is not the government, right? I mean, one has to, if you talk about the Election Commission, you talk about the judiciary, they're all different institutions. You can't club them together and make them into...
Run by the government. How did the government take away all the cases of all of the 60% of the current cabinet, which is more than 84 people? The cases, corruption cases against them were quashed. In Pakistan, if you do a corruption for less than 50 crore rupees, it is not...
Fair enough. Let me just ask you a question. As far as the case on Rana Sanaullah is concerned, isn't it true that your members of your own cabinet have admitted on countless occasions that was a fabricated case, and the way that he was victimized? You know, there are numerous cases like that as far as the PML-N is concerned. When we talk about the former Prime Minister, the number of cases, of course, debatable, but, you know, if there is ruckus every time he chooses to step out and face the courts, and there is property destroyed, there are people who are actually hurt, then, you know, the state has no choice but to make more cases. So it's becoming a recurring thing, right? The government has to impose the writ of the law. I'm just trying to clarify the question.
What law? A law that picks up a special person, picks him up with his photos going in the police van, and then he's killed and thrown on the road.
Okay, I think I'm going to go to Ali and let Ali answer this. Ji, Ali, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. As for the person, the political worker which passed away, I think it is very clear now. This case was investigated, and he did not die in police custody. It was a separate case, and the video which Mr. Khan and other PTI workers released of him being in a police mobile was from a very different day and from a different event. And it was all proved. I don't know. I think Dr. Zarqa missed the memo on that, so I won't get into that. But it had nothing to do with him dying in police custody, first of all. Second of all, I would like to talk about Mr. Khan. You know, he used to criticize Shahbaz Sharif and company ke ji. These people, look at them, they're not even brave enough to do jalsas without any bulletproof screen, etc. Yesterday, his jalsa, he was standing behind a bulletproof thing, and when the intelligence agencies have told him there's an imminent threat by the Taliban and other extremist outfits that you may be targeted. So the guy did not care about the masses, the women and children and all the political workers who were attending the jalsa, but as long as he was safe and he was behind that bulletproof screen, everything was fine. And you see, the court, whatever, just tell me one institution which Mr. Khan or PTI does not have a problem with. They talk about the election commission. Who was the election commissioner, current election commissioner appointed by? Mr. Imran Khan, who was all praises for the election commissioner till he was doing his job and till he was not doing anything which was rubbing PTI the wrong way. Just because the guy is fair and now things are coming out, they have a problem. They have a problem with the judges. They had a problem with the judges. He threatened that judge called Zeba. Then he had to apologize. He has a problem with the chief of army staff. He has a problem with the institutions. Please tell me one person or institution or group of people PDM, political parties, who Mr. Khan does not have a problem with. I think sometimes when he wakes up in the morning and he sees himself in the mirror, he probably has a problem with himself.
We're also looking at, currently the PTI posting, people from the PTI who are posting pictures of current judges, at this time, and they're openly threatening the same members of the judiciary. So there's a, a lot of, there's a background to that. I'll come back to you. Ji Kaisar Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Kaisar Saab, where do you think, in your experience, where do you think this kind of politics will lead us? I want to invariably come to that, because as far as the opposition is concerned, there doesn't seem to be, they're not contributing to any, to diffusing the situation. They're not contributing. Unfortunately, we're looking at more and more aggression from that side. There is an overture by the government. They say that let's talk, let there be dialogue, but it's invariably refused. So do you think it's going to continue like this? What is your vision of this kind of, the way that things are looking?
Mahrukh, since last 5 years, PTI is doing the same thing. They are blaming and alleging their opposition and saying chor daku, nothing else. They have no point to prove that what they did actually. They are only blaming, and now even the Honorable Senator Dr. Zarqa, I know her very well. So I couldn't think that she, although you gave her a lot of time, then still she's blaming. The only thing PTI has is to blame. They don't have their own concrete evidence and their performance. They don't talk about the performance. They only say that the police is against them. They say that the army is against them. They feel that the election commission is not in their favor. They feel that the assembly is imported. They said that the regime change was by the United States government. Tell me one institution in which they had, when the assembly was dissolved, and then they said that why the Supreme Court was convened at 12 o'clock in the night. So I don't know. They only have allegations. They don't have anything to prove. They did miserable things for the economy. And I mentioned to you that whatever problems were created that were in their period with the IMF. And now we have been asking them that it is not one party that could improve the economy. We should have to make some consensus. And I totally feel that until and unless we have a consensus, we get together, we have a charter of economy, our country is going to a very miserable economic situation. For example, the elections were being held. The elections were held in 1970. What happened to our country? That was that was not the result of the election which we thought that should be. Then in 77, after elections there was martial law. Now the country is going to that level that if we have elections at this time, without having any consensus or any charter of economy or any minimum agenda of agreement, I feel that our country will lose a lot. And then
right, fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. And also, if you look back and look at the institutions at this time, it's your army that has said that they don't have the necessary personnel. It's your judiciary that's saying they don't have judicial officers to act, for the election day. So overall, putting the whole blame on the government, perhaps, one has to reevaluate the situation there also. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Before I close, I want to ask Senator Dr. Zarqa your comments. Would you agree, overall, would the PTI agree to a charter of economy, a charter of democracy at all?
Absolutely, but they don't have anything. 11 months they've been here, and what have they done? From an economy that was going at 5.6%, this is the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics numbers. Now we are less than 1%. Where are the prices?
If there is a charter of economy, if there is a charter of democracy in which, we can see, perhaps, we can let the government function, there can be less upheaval, there can be less, the kind of overall upheaval that we've seen for more than a year now, would the PTI agree to that?
Only in Pakistan do you hear these terms of charter of democracy, charter of economy. This is supposed to be a democracy. A democracy runs on elections. Hold elections and then do what you have to do. Don't come in from the back door and come in by cheating and then hope that the people of Pakistan, the 220 million...
Right, but Dr. Zarqa, okay, fair enough, that's your opinion, but as far as vote of no confidence is concerned, it's obviously in the constitution, it's not unconstitutional. The way that it was held, it's certainly a part of our law at this time. Ali, your comments, unfortunately, we're running out of time.
It's very amused. It's very rich coming from PTI, talking about people coming from the back door. We know how in 2018 how PTI was imposed upon us. But that being said, we are ready, and I think a charter of economy of the hour, and there should be a 10-year vision that no matter which government, no matter which political party is in power, these are things which we need to do, and we should first, put political differences aside and think about the country. When it comes, the love of your country should come first, and politics should come, after that. And that's what I believe.
Right, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. Kaisar Ahmed Sheikh Saab, thank you for being with us. Ali Rashid, thank you for joining us. Senator Dr. Zarqa, thank you for making the time. Overall, of course, as far as nothing can be said except that the country, of course, should be supreme over any party allegiances, any party politics that at this time, and that shouldn't take precedence over the patriotism for one's country and for what's important as far as economy is concerned, as far as tackling real issues like security and all those things are concerned. Of course, we have seen the opposition, PTI, saying that elections first, but the point is, how do you go to elections, which is what the government is saying. They're saying, well, these are the problems. Whoever comes in has to deal with them. The government came in with tackling with these issues that were there, and for them to be able to deal with them, how do you go to elections before that can happen? So there seems to be, of course, the cases in court, we will see some sort of direction come from the Supreme Court, but there seems to be, as far as the government is concerned, a clear resolve to try to put things in order as far as the country is concerned. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.